This is an email I got from Dick. Nobody here is new. And guess today is Groundhog Day. And of course, we've got the green comet, ZTF, which is last seen in caveman days, 50,000 years ago. And I don't think any of us up here in New England could see it because of the clouds. And of course, the FTC hosts many webinars. I haven't read that yet. Let me bring that up. And it's identify theft. Somebody said something.
I think everybody but Jerry should mute themselves, please.
Okay. I'll do that. I put on my earphones to see if the clicking stopped. Bob, did it stop?
There's still a mild clicking, but it's not as annoying as it has been.
Okay.
I think we'll get through this. We'll get through this.
Okay. All right, and we have Chat GPT Maker releases the AI detection tool.
I read a little bit about that recently.
Yeah.
And it would appear that it is designed, their detection tool is designed so that people can check for plagiarism by students particularly.
Yep.
But it still tags student writing about 3 times out of 10. Says that an actual student's writing is a false positive, meaning it sounds to that detection tool like the GPT chat is responsible for writing their article.
Oh dear. 30% false positive is pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I would like to circle back a little bit to the FTC Identity Theft webinar series. That's ongoing now due to their Identity Theft Week. Another user group had an announcement about it that they sent to me. In fact, several groups. And it is recommended viewing. It will be available for viewing after the webinars have concluded. They conclude tomorrow. So there are various topics about that. Now we can get back to either Chat GPT or the next item.
Okay. Let me just see. I think I stopped sharing my air.
I believe you did, Jerry.
Yep. Okay. The next thing is the history of computing. I'm not going to show the 1 hour video.
Thank you.
Bring this.
My name is Chris Shaw down there. I'm not here in my ARM capacity, although I am in product marketing as ARM. I've been there for 20 years, just over 20 years now. So I'm not here in my armed capacity. I'm here in my personal capacity as a dude who has a fascination with old computing stuff.
Okay, let me just reshare.
Oh, is this?
Okay. Yeah, several of us go back in the early days of computing. But another thing I don't really know, Ubuntu Unity UI mockups. Again, I'm not a fan of Ubuntu, so somebody else is going to have to talk about this. Let me see if I can bring this up. Ah, good. That's going to share very nicely. Okay, someone want to talk about this?
I wouldn't be surprised if Dick had some good comments on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. That's really where Dick is. But
I did see a video recently, one of those YouTube types, where a person who recommends newbie distros suggested that he is no longer doing Ubuntu. One of the reasons he mentioned was that the Unity interface has been sidelined from the company just at the point where this fellow felt it was going to be a real unifier for all the possible platforms, whether they were I think I'm feeding back through Jerry's.
No, Jill may have finally got Dick's microphone working. We had feedback at the
okay.
Miller residence.
yeah, I put my earphones on to prevent that.
Yeah, it's at the Millers.
Welcome, Dick.
In any event, this fellow is now saying that
Oh, you have your
Ubuntu
microphone
is
turned off. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jill.
Oh, good. We have contact. For some reason, Dick was not, I think maybe his microphone wasn't working or something.
It's been working.
He said it's been working. Hold on just a minute. We're going to make one more test.
I'm interested in Algott's comments about not recommending Ubuntu for beginners once they abandon Unity. Is that because GNOME is so much worse for beginners?
Well, I think what the person was suggesting, and I'll send the link to it a little later when I'm not on the talking hook, but he was suggesting that now that Ubuntu is in GNOME, their current long-term support doesn't keep up with GNOME. It's behind by 6 months or so. And he feels that that's a real problem for the best experience that you could have. So he's going for Linux Mint
Well,
at the moment anyway.
Hey, folks,
if you don't want long-term support, don't choose long-term support.
Yeah, another thing you could do is get a subscription to Ubuntu Pro and extend your support.
Long-term support is more of a stable platform than a bleeding edge.
I don't think that's what Algot was mentioning here. What it is that they are not shipping the latest GNOME at the time of their release. They're shipping one that's like 6 months back. So
True.
even if you're on the latest version of Ubuntu, the GNOME version you're getting is going to be older than, say, the GNOME version you get on Fedora.
Well, he said LTS, and LTS
Yeah.
would be more stable than regular Ubuntu. But Fedora is, yes, a bleeding edge release because it's not Red Hat. If you want a rolling bleeding thing, you can hook up Ubuntu with the test repositories, if you want really unstable. But I wouldn't recommend that for beginners. That's weird.
Yeah, Ubuntu tends to be very conservative about a lot of components, and the GNOME components are generally way behind, for example, Fedora, which I have also tried. So Dennis is correct about what he's saying. It's already behind by the time it gets into the LTS, and then it falls farther behind because LTS does not progress further.
Yeah, I mean, you don't choose LTS if you want the latest. You choose LTS if you want stability.
Yeah, which is why I like it.
Yeah, I install LTS and will generally not go even beyond the latest LTS, and I'll just add PPAs if I want a newer version of something, like Rhythmbox. I wanted 3.6 instead of 3.4, so I got the PPA.
Yeah. And I will sometimes go outside of repos to get the developer's latest version. I've done that for GIMP. I've done that for others. But that does not update the GNOME components, and that's the problem. It also doesn't update GTK or Qt components. And I hate having to go out after more and more stuff outside of the repo. So, Ubuntu is what Ubuntu is.
This is Dick. Am I back on?
Yes, you are.
Oh, lovely. We've been making all kinds of changes at this end. Well, I'm quite puzzled. I'm not giving a good demonstration of Ubuntu today, but I was all morning. I was yesterday. I still don't know what hit. I've switched to an Ethernet cable instead of a wireless connection, and it had been complaining about very bad bandwidth on the internet connection. So we shall see. In any case, I mentioned a lot of Ubuntu things because that's what I tend to look at closely, but I'm glad we're discussing comparisons. My point on it is that I think Ubuntu Unity, which is the one I tend to use, Angel, has been quite stable. We're having troubles with our internet connection for about a week now. Not too pleased about it. And I think I can prove that everything it ought to be isn't because of some of the side effects. And most of the time it's okay now. For days it was not. Now it's pretty much stabilized, but it just went bad on us. No idea why. We'll know more next month. In the meantime, I wanted to mention that for Ubuntu, there's quite a bit going on right now. I'm running 3 versions of Ubuntu Unity on my computer, and one is the long-term support one, 22.04. One is the latest full release, which is 22.10 from October. And I'm also running the beta for 23.04, which will not be an LTS. And they've all been running well most of the time, with a few exceptions that I was planning to hit today. As far as the operating systems go, they've been solid. The internet connection, I suspect, is between our hardware, our house, and the place we have our information on a server. So we're still debugging that. Even the beta has been very stable, and stable running just about every app that we run. One or two times I found something that wasn't steady, not intermittent, but rather wasn't clicking in properly, and I've notified the people running the application.
I've had trouble with Jitsi and Zoom, which are heavily internet-based.
Well, we've been having trouble with the internet connection.
But we think it's the internet.
So, yeah, it's independent of which connection we're using. Better say which software we're using for the connection. The other thing I wanted to say about Ubuntu is we think Ubuntu is better than you do, except for this immediate problem where we are. We also think that Ubuntu Unity is our preferred way of using it. And I want to point out that one of the new operating systems literally has been online for less than 1 week. And that's Blend OS. It is created with the lead being the same fellow that puts out Ubuntu Unity. So what's really interesting about Blender is maybe he's having the same conversation we're having now. As far as I can tell, Blender is what you get if you built Ubuntu Unity starting with Mint. And if then you added Fedora, and then, and that's covering Ubuntu, and there's a third in there somewhere, I'm not quite remembering now, not Red Hat. And anyway,
Dick, that's Arch. It's Arch.
Thanks, Arch Linux, which a lot of people like also. So bottom line, he's combining 3 major streams so you can run the apps from any one of them on this and beyond. And it sounds like it's going to be very malleable. I'm wondering if Ubuntu Unity is going to phase out as Blend phases in. It's too early for me to tell you more about it, but I'm looking forward to spending time with it. It sounds very interesting, and if it's adequately debugged to start, that'll be real nice news. I'm waiting to find out. Has anyone else looked at Blend OS? Guess not.
First I'm hearing of it.
Well, here it is on screen, and you'll be able to click and put it on screen. And let's see. If you can click on Learn More, I think we might learn more. Right down under where it's going back and forth.
Yeah, what I haven't seen, at least yet, demonstrated by this author, is a fully graphical desktop environment. I'm sure he's got it, but he hasn't seemed to have posted it.
Well, again, when I can put it up, I'll find out. See the Learn More button there? Jerry, can you click on it?
I don't even see him in his.
Well, I'm not too impressed at the moment, but I'll have you a link you can click on like this, and hopefully it will be a little more of a demonstration going with it. Okay, where are we at? So, I remind everyone that tonight is probably the last optimal night for looking at the Green Comet. And I had trouble deciding whether to put it under FOSS News because tonight's the night, or if I should put it under history because the last time it was around was 50,000 years ago. So it ended up in the new area. And I want to have everyone pay attention to this U.S. Fair Trade Commission hosting a week, which is also timely because it ends tomorrow. And the week is an online set of webinars and demonstrations, and some of them you won't be able to see later. Most of them you will, but if you want to participate, ask questions or make comments, you want to go live, later today and tomorrow are the end of that opportunity. So you've got a link there for that. And I really want to flag it for those people who are particularly interested in identity theft and various security issues hooked pretty tightly with it. That's about it for that one. I just wanted to make sure people knew. Mozilla Rally, I think, is self-explanatory. They're saying all the big tech operations are getting all kinds of data about you and all kinds of advantages. What would it look like if those were optimized for the user instead of the big company owner? And there you go. And I think it's fascinating reading, and some of you will want to start playing. So I wanted to mention that one. And again, I don't think we have to go in deep. It's got a good sales pitch, and you're looking at it. And I think it also has some videos you can reach from there, things of that sort. So I'll leave people to play with it on their own time. Main screen again, please. Let's see where we're at.
Thing is Chat GPT.
Good, thanks, Sherry. And
You're welcome.
I think, Fred, Jerry, were you planning to talk about the Chat GPT? Is that the one I thought you were going to do or not?
No, I don't know that much about Chat GPT.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. Chat GPT has been in the news, been in our news. It's an artificial intelligence program where you can just go online, ask it a question, and it gives back remarkably cogent answers. How cogent? So cogent that people are using it to answer their take-home exam papers. And it's giving good answers. In fact, recently it got tested giving all the right answers to pass the final exam for an MBA from the Wharton Business School. That set up alarms. See, they don't care about tech problems, but it's a business school issue. It's going to be out in big business. So everybody panicked, but the group that's putting out ChatGPT just released, and again within the week, an AI detection tool so that the test givers can fight back. They can tell when someone's cheating that way. this is going to turn into quite a spiral. I can see it coming, but we now have the repartee for the first problem, and we'll see where it goes from here. Any comments?
Well, for starters, it gives notoriously bad answers very confidently some of the time if you actually know what you're talking about with it.
Well, I've seen some good ones with good references.
Oh, absolutely. It gives the right answer frequently enough to give people the belief that it gives the right answer all the time, but it doesn't. But it's in Dunning-Kruger land. It believes it's right until you tell it otherwise. But of course, if you tell it its right answer is wrong, it'll start giving other people wrong answers. So it's a bit of a disaster all around. And was it Algot that had a comment on the false positive rate for the detection tool?
Yes, I read that it was as high as 30% false positives, identifying actual student work as being Chat GPT.
And given that you could fail a final exam or be expelled from school if they still have an honor code based on that 30% false positive, that is a pretty disastrous tool and doesn't excuse them. The makers of this tool have also engaged in using it with depressed people without a ethics review board monitoring their study. This particular OpenAI group is completely out of ethical control.
And yet it's attractive. And
so is a pool without a fence.
And did I read that Google just bought it? I read something recently, and I think that was the gist of it. Anyway, somebody we don't trust as much will buy it, and it will get even more aimed toward the business rather than the end user. Or 3 more like it will show up to do that. And some of them will have malware on them, and they will be attractive.
Yeah. A pool without a fence is also an attractive nuisance, and it's dangerous and illegal. This one's only dangerous so far. It's just a language model. It's just a predictive nonsense generator that's trained on a whole lot of copyright works.
Well, I think we'll be learning more about it, but yes, an interesting predicament. Do you know that it's standing on copyrighted work?
Given some of the text it's generated, it's pretty obvious.
I thought they said it had not.
The internet itself.
The internet is full of copyright works. Works are born copyright in the U.S. Unless you declare it public domain, if it's on the internet, it's still copyright.
That's exactly right.
I do not believe this counts as a fair use compilation. I am not a lawyer.
I think all the AI projects have that problem. I don't think any of them have been trained only on public domain or legally allowed content.
There has been a lot of controversy about how AI is trained. You're both right about that. You're all right about that.
There are lots of other problems in training also, yes.
Yeah, the training is usually done on what can be scraped from the internet. And that's almost all copyrighted material.
And frequently racist and misogynist and ageist and several other ists. The Microsoft GitHub's Copilot program is not, may very well be generating code snippets that are too small to be copyright, but are extracted from copyright programs. I mean, it's unethical, illegal, all the way down. And really, as with other mad scientists, these AI people need to ask not only can we, but should we?
Yeah, with code, that's a real issue.
I saw a very interesting comment that someone made that communication and language at its base is a design tool for communication between people. And if one half of the conversation isn't a person, it's not really a conversation. So you might learn something that came from an AI generated document, but you wouldn't really be learning it the way conversations are meant to be.
Wait till that gets to the religious groups. They depend upon having conversations with someone that isn't a person. We shall see. I think this is a great topic. To what degree the internet and related software are pushing the boundaries on copyright and vice versa. And after all, if someone puts it on your computer, especially without your asking for it, is it still copyright? I don't know the answers to these, but it might make a good topic for next month. Okay. Meanwhile, I think we've covered the new items, but there's news about an old item. That's Colossus. We've got a 1 hour video available that's fairly new. And Colossus was the big supercomputer of its time in World War II. And apparently we're still learning more about how much it did for the Allied side during World War II. So I'm looking forward to seeing the 1 hour video. It just came to my attention. And that, by golly, is history. The next one is sort of history. Again, I'm talking Ubuntu Unity, but I think there's parallels. I thought it was very interesting. It's history from 12 years ago. And Ubuntu is introducing Unity, and people are evaluating it. For those who don't know, Unity is one of many graphical front ends, desktops, that you can run on your computer. And Ubuntu introduced it, and then maybe 6 years later or so, they took it back. Or rather, they discontinued support. Well, some other people started supporting it because it was by far the favorite of most Ubuntu users that we know, and many others. And one of the people who started supporting it is the fellow who later came out with Ubuntu Unity, putting the two together at the start, right, and optimizing for it. So this is the old news at the beginning. Of the middle, that's what we're running now is Ubuntu Unity, and maybe as what's about to turn the page into Blend OS. We shall see, but I thought this evaluation of all the things you could do with it when it was new is a nice step back in history to what we're about to do with Blend OS. So I'm looking with some interest at that. On to the hot software. Well, we already covered most of this, I think. Told you the beta is available for use with nightly updates. Once in a while, they're weekly updates, but mostly they're still nightly. And Blend OS is, you'll have a link for that tonight. And Jill has something different than that. Jill, before you start, let me mention this one and just kiss it off. I was going to demonstrate Photox 22.1 and its changes. I've only had it for 2 days. We've been a little busy here during those 2 days. I like everything about it a lot, except for one bug, which is so much in your face at the beginning as you start that I haven't reported it till this morning. I guess last night I reported it, and I got a report back this morning that it wouldn't be an instant patch. They'd have to look at more issues and get it really universal. And the problem is when you go into do a search through all the things you need on your computer that are images or raw source 4 images, the item is just a little too tall to fit on the screen here.
The sub window.
And I expect that that goes for other computers too. And as a result, you can't quite see the buttons you need to enable it. You can select everything you want and then you can't make it go. So there's a height adjustment that's desperately needed. It'll adjust size sideways just fine, but not up and down in the current setup.
Well, it has to do with the size of the screen you're working on.
It's a disaster, and it's a minor issue, but right at the start, right in your face. And I think it must have gotten changed at the last minute because the beta had not been giving us any trouble.
The developer works on a great big screen, and we're working on laptops.
Dick and Joe.
On the other hand, we're 1440 pixels high, and most people are not. So I don't understand. I'm surprised it didn't get picked up sooner. But I'd say hold your breath at least a week, and I expect it'll be called Photox 23.1-1. This is my hunch. Because the .1, I think, is for the month it was released. We shall see. Anyway, I recommend you don't go to it immediately. I went back to the beta I've been running. So that's a short, sweet one. Meanwhile, we've been playing a lot with our computers lately. Mine recently upgraded to where it's a little laptop, but Core i7, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and for storage, all SSD, 3 terabytes. From doing a lot of photography work and some other things that just want to stay on the computer. And I'm set for a while. But that meant we had to change various software to go look at the new places on the new drives. For instance, my main drive is faster than the 2 terabyte, which is an imitation hard drive sitting on the SATA connection and shaped in a box to fit into the hard drive space. It's solid state, but it's probably 5 times slower or thereabouts from the faster one. My operating systems and most of my operations are going on the fast one, but my equivalent of home, which I call /user data, is up on the slower drive. Doesn't matter, it's fast enough to load something or save something. And then all the fast work's going on in RAM and on the lower drive. So application programs, operating systems, that sort of stuff is all sitting on the fast stick drive. Well, because we've been changing so many things, we've had to be correcting a lot of application updates and things like that to make sure they're not setting themselves. They know how to find our new positions in new places. In general, everything's been fine, but the posting of the page for this group is, no, I'm sorry. It's our personal Money Is Not Wealth webpage. And it's big, big, big. And it's been showing some troubles, not on our computer, but when we go to upload it. It's related to the problem we've been having. We can download full speed. Go figure. And I'd say it's about 10 times slower than it was before. Very obvious. So, meanwhile, every time we do an upload, we have to worry if that one got saved or didn't get saved or timed out first. And we have to check. And then we have to go back and compare for things that might have gotten missed. It's a temporary problem for this week, like that other one. And we've got a wonderful tool for working with it. I think everyone has it. But Jill is going to demonstrate how it works the way we've got it set up. And it's a meld tool. How do you take two copies of the same project and see where the differences are and figure out where to correct them and do that on the same fell swoop? Just put it all back together right. We've had a chance to use it, and Jill will show you a quick run. You have to. Can Jill's computer share the screen?
Can I do my screen sharing?
Yep.
Okay, let me see. Screen sharing, here we go. Select window or screen.
Full screen, right?
Right.
Way down.
Entire screen.
Oh, it's my turn to coach.
Allow. Okay, and is it working? Yes.
I do believe it is.
This is the user interface for Meld or Meld Diff Viewer, depending on how you define it, which is a comparison. For comparing, you can compare files or you can compare directories. And here I'm comparing my list of recipes. I have a folder with lots and lots of recipes in it, which I've made two small copies of, and then changed the contents on several of them. In other words, instead of 1,000 recipes, I've got less than a screen full. So here's the caveat first. I am using the previous version, not the most up-to-date version, because the most up-to-date version seems to have been optimized for this super simple layout that people use on their phones. And I have been unable to figure out how to put the menu, make it visible, or the toolbar. And since I don't memorize all the keystrokes for everything, and some of them don't seem to have keystrokes, although I did this morning find a web page with a list of the keystrokes, nonetheless, I prefer to use this version. I guess you can't see up at the top here, but there are 3 buttons: new, modified, and the same. Oh no, same, new, and modified. There we go. We've got them. So if I click on same, it's going to show me everything.
It is showing, Joe.
No, it isn't. This is
talking about this.
Oh yes, no, but they're underneath that Firefox thingy. So if I click on same, it shows me every single file that's in this part that I saved. If I click off same and click on new, new items are highlighted in green, and I'll turn off new and it won't show me new ones. And modified doesn't show you the blue ones, which are the file exists in each excuse me, in each folder, but they have different contents in the text. These are text files. So what I like is, suppose I decide that I need to have my homemade lemonade recipe in the other folder. No, normally I use this to save things onto a flash drive that I then sneaker net to a different computer. So I've got 3 copies of things that I update very often. So if I click on, and I can click on multiple things with Control and Shift, and then I click on copyright, and they'll go over to the other side. And now both of them are, they're black instead of green on both sides. And if I click on, let me see, if I click on same again and remove it again, now I'm again only seeing the things that are different. So this is the using it for comparing the contents of directories. Oh, and I forgot to say, in new comparison, you get file comparison, and you click on that, and it'll give you a place to put 2 separate file names, or you can click on 3-way comparison, and you get a third button for finding so you can do a 3-way comparison. So you've got file comparison and directory comparison, which is what I was using, with these drop downs for picking your folders, and I'm usually going with other, but with the recipes, I went with recipes. Okay, let me go back to,
Going to look at some files.
I'm going to look at a couple of files. These were two files of recipes, although they're pretty old, and they were very terse. They did not give a lot of instructions, but
Old ones are like
right. So in this one, it matches up left and right the contents of the first file with the contents of the second file. If they're the same, it stays white. If they're different, it's blue. Light blue is things that are the same in that section, and dark blue means it's missing from one side. All you have to do to make them match is click on the arrow that's going in the direction you want to move things to. So if I click on the arrow on the left side, the contents of the left side will move over to, will copy over to the right side.
Which means delete, right? In this case?
No, it's going to add bread to the right side, because the right side only says Bannock.
Uh-huh.
But if I do it the other way, it will take out, if I go from right to left, it will put the contents that's on the right side over on the left side. And you need to be somewhat careful, because sometimes it parses things a little oddly, and you might lose or gain or double on some things if you're careful. Now
Try a test run to begin.
There are up and down arrows here for you to search for the next change. Notice the background of the second blued block here is a little darker than the blue of the first block. Whichever one is highlighted is brighter. So I click the down arrow and I come to, this one is now the highlighted, the active one that's going to move. That they're being, actually it doesn't really matter. Now that I think of it, I could still go up here and click on the arrows or down here. And I will go down to yet another one. And this is what happens if you have something totally left out on one side. Here's an extra quote recipe unquote. If I click on the arrow, it will copy it over to the left in this case. There's actually, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a very pale green line here. And it's going to copy that over. So now it's copied. And there is an undo. Ta-da. In any case, I find this extremely helpful for coding, for especially in the directory comparison, for seeing if I have the same thing in two, or if I have everything I want on my little backup thumb drive for the few categories of things that I want to keep really up to date and be able to get back easily. And I think that that's all I want to say at this point. Does anybody have any questions?
I would imagine this would be very good for the address book files that we collect. There's some old addresses that get interesting again, but they're not in it.
This goes deeper than the rsync comparison that just takes the latest version of the file that I use to sync thumb drives and the like. What's this called again?
Meld.
Some places refer to as Meld Diff Viewer.
Right.
It's available with a graphic user interface or without. You can just run it from the command line.
I'm also interested in some of these recipes, Jill.
Pardon?
I'm also coveting your recipe collection.
Well, if you'll cook it, we'll eat it. Maybe we can make a deal.
Every time I come across a recipe that I think might be interesting, I save a copy of it, and usually I turn it into a PDF. But this is back from Usenet, and I kept adding to it when I found new things. So, but anyway,
Usenet, yes.
You can install. It's in the Ubuntu Software Center to install on 2210. I believe Dick did not find it in 2304 beta. And he went up to GitHub to get it. And the version he has is this one that doesn't have anything in the menu. It doesn't have a menu, menus available, and it doesn't have a toolbar.
What version are you running? That's the one that has it.
The version I have is, where are they? Is 3.20.4.
So that's the one this week you want to go for. Generally, they have fairly recent older versions also available.
You can also install it. Is it GPT for installing it? Or you can install it with Synaptic Package Manager.
And probably a few other flavors out there.
Right. If you just look up Meld there are lots of discussions of how to install it, none of which use Software Center because they, I think, predate Ubuntu or whatever. Anyway,
And my newer version seems to be running essentially the same way. They haven't caught up with all the good stuff up in the top bar. Again, a little off on the timing.
okay, back to you, Jerry.
Well, actually, the next thing on the list is a demo from me, but I think there's a couple of demos from me, and then Dennis will be on. Why don't I do a couple? Well, Jerry, stay off the screen, and I'll try to get on. Jill, are you off it?
Yes.
Okay, then this should work. It says here. And we want the entire screen. And we shall allow. And I do believe this might work. Good. Okay, where am I? Who am I? Oh, okay. First of all, here's my business-looking desktop. And by the way, that's a fractal I generated easily with chaos, spelled XAOS. And then I used Photox to lay the lettering across with little dark outlines for each light letter. So, for instance, on the top line where it says more, the M is sitting on top of almost the same color, but you can see it very clearly differentiated.
Live streaming is on.
Nice. So, after I created the color and outline and widths and sizes, the outline, you can change the width to what looks good for what you're doing. And then I picked an italic font, and I used Photox to simply slide the right side up until the italics looked basically vertical. The T's and L's, for instance, and I's. And I thought that was very effective. I like the way it worked out. But my point here is, I think, to go forward. Let's see if I'm right. It's one or the other.
Desktop.
I'll do it. And by the way, in Photox, for those who use it, these are all markup activities for the lettering. Markup is the tool you go to. So edit markup, and then you've got a lot of tools for that. Easy to do, very powerful. Now, what I want to do is, no, I don't want to do that. I want to back, I say, and see if this will work. No.
What are you doing? You're looking for
It is
your
what I
links.
wanted. Okay, let's try it this way. I will. I was expecting a change background from that. Maybe I hit the wrong.
It looks like you're in Photox.
Oh, that was a sneaky thing. No, I'm not. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, okay. I will arrange to change the desktop. Come on, I know you're here.
This is not the desktop, Dick.
It isn't?
No. It's Photox.
Oh, it's a
settings
Photox of. Okay.
Go to System Settings.
Wait a minute.
Show Desktop. Stop
This isn't
there.
going to.
That's the desktop.
Oh, okay. Now, try again. Change desktop background. That wasn't as hard as it was the first time. And should be somewhere in here on it.
You all gone silent.
Yep, looks like we lost Dick again.
While we wait, shall we see if there's any other discussion to be had?
I did want to add one thing about that Photox bug that Dick mentioned. I also use Linux Mint with the Cinnamon desktop environment, and it has always had an issue with with Photox getting cut off at the bottom, and you can't get to the help, and you can't get to 2 or 3 other items down there. I had to change my screen resolution in order to make that work. So I went up to a high screen resolution, which meant I had to make some adjustments to icon sizes and font sizes in Mint Cinnamon. So I suspect that the new version has gotten into an even worse version of that problem, that same issue. And as Dick says, a clue to it is that the developer uses a big screen.
I found that web developers frequently use very large monitors as they enjoy making layouts for their pages, and occasionally it results in terrible results for the rest of us.
Just as in the old days, we needed to have the designers occasionally use dial-up. We need to have designers and coders occasionally use small monitors.
Exactly. That way they would know.
I don't think that's as big of a problem now, though, because a lot of people are also targeting mobile phones. So you tend to have that really narrow display that they do.
Yes, the developers that focus on phones have a narrow, small portrait design that doesn't take advantage of a large screen and hides too much. Yeah, you have one or the other, and it's hard to target both.
Yeah, that doesn't get cut off at the bottom on a full-size monitor. It just leaves huge side panels, which are usually black. But in this case, using the large, long monitor means that he thinks that we're able to see a longer display window than we can. And that isn't easy to correct.
So it'll probably work fine for me.
Yeah, but I just have a standard 16:9 display on a desktop computer, and at least in Mint, the resolution wasn't high enough, and the display window got cut off at the bottom because it's a little bit longer. So anyway, if that bug that Dick reported gets fixed, I can try it again in Mint on the normal resolution and see whether it works in Cinnamon. So I'm just saying that the problem does predate the current version.
Oh, okay.
It's just been getting worse and worse in various iterations.
Well, I haven't caught up in quite a while, so.
But I do like Photox. It works well for me.
I have a kind of a sidelight comment about Photox related to web images. Most people are very happy to get JPEGs and PNG files as the standard ways to deliver. And Photox handles both of those quite well. But I was a little bit surprised to see that one of the new being promoted level audio, excuse me, photo formats is not in Photox, and that Cornelius tends to be right on the front edge, and I was a little surprised.
At least,
Color me, I'm not surprised. Now, it's
at least some of them he's got converters for to ingest. You talking about WebP or JP2 or something else?
I'm talking about Mandelbulb 3D. But,
my question was for Algot on what we were talking about while we were waiting for you, sir.
Oh. Well, when I can, I'd like to get the screen back.
Yeah.
And we may just be back in business. You never know. And I want to, let's see.
Was it a video that you were looking for?
Oh boy, yes. Can I get to it from here? I don't know, because can I go in Firefox and do it while I'm on the link?
Thunderbird.
Okay. Thunderbird?
Yes.
Come on, I know you're here.
Isn't it up the top?
No, it should be down. Well, yeah, it is. Okay, I can work from this. Good idea. And, where am I? Who am I?
Mandelbulb video.
Thank you. Well, first of all, let's talk about, I talked about Chaos, and you'll have a link if you want to play with it. For beginners, start with Chaos. This is just a little tidbit I thought I would share, especially if I can find the right one. From here, I just have a zillion of them. And I'll just pick a one. I'd say this. There's quite a few to choose from.
YouTube privacy warning is.
And this is an example of one of these little things. Doesn't look too exciting.
Yeah.
Now it's beginning to look a little more exciting.
Hey, I think it's a COVID virus.
Or carrying one. Actually, this looks more like what you can do with Photox. So let me go back. Come on, where are you? Should be sitting in here.
What?
Well, I want to go back one step in this one.
Don't you just
I
scroll
thought
up?
I'd have a left arrow.
No, you never went out of it.
I guess you're right. Let's see. I'm looking for one using 3D stuff.
Oh, wasn't that Mandelbulb? 3D?
Mando, not that.
This is Chaos. This is not Mandelbulb 3D.
Oh, it shouldn't be. Okay. Let's see if I did it over here. Oh, here's my fault. Life as we know it does exist.
Dismiss.
Right. We may have to tolerate its sound. Actually, it has all kinds of neat things in it. You're going to enjoy this one.
Just the movie.
But, pretty much. But here is a part in it where I picked up my stuff. Watch. Here it comes. And that's what I made my image from. And I made my image simply by doing a screenshot, which on my Ubuntu Unity is Alt Print Screen, the two opposite corners of the keyboard. And I have it. My screen is high resolution, so I get a higher resolution grab of it, but it wasn't that sharp. How sharp was it? Let's go look. Who am I? Here we go. And here is the original, which got saved as a PNG file. I don't particularly like them, but that's what my screensaver tends to do. And it's not all that sharp. And it's telling me that time, 2:28, because this is a picture of the whole screen while it was playing. That's what it grabbed. Then I took that, I changed it to a JPEG. And then I changed the JPEG to things I could use with Photox, including cropping, so the red line isn't quite showing, and the fractal universe isn't quite showing, and it's sized correctly for the screen ratio, and it's brightened up and contrasted a bit from what it was. So here's what I came in, well, let's see. Here's what I came in with, and here's what I ended up with. I like it a lot better for wallpaper, and that's what I did with Photox to it. But how did it get there in the first place? The answer, it was using the other program in the set.
Which you don't have open.
Which I don't have open.
Go to Thunderbird.
And in Thunderbird.
Click on Mandelbulb.
Right. I use a program called Mandelbulber. And Mandelbulb is a 3D escalation of Mandelbrot fractals, and plus a lot of others these days. Mandelbulb 3D does the 3D work and can do the video work. That's the video I showed you. And the program itself is rather complex, but it does have very good documentation and tutorials with video to go. And I'm going to enjoy looking at it. And if somebody wants to do it and demo it, I'd like to watch too. I just took advantage of someone that used it to get a great wallpaper. So that's what I wanted to do there.
Next,
let's see.
hardware.
Next one is last month we didn't get to go in depth, but we were talking about 1 terabyte thumb drives that only cost $30 or so. And that was pretty spectacular, but you wait a month and things change. So we'll look at that. This one struck me as almost ideal. It's a 4-in-1. Each of these ends opens up to make another end, and it has a lightning end to go into a lot of iPod stuff. It has a regular USB end. The USB end will swing up to expose a USB-C connector, and up at this end, it opens to go to a micro USB. They're kind of going out of flavor, but there's a lot of equipment using them. It's what they call Android, but my new Android stuff all uses USB-C. So in any case, I thought that would be marvelous. I can just go back and forth between just about anything out there, and it's big enough to hold a lot of stuff if I'm visiting a client, go home, work on it, bring it back, whatever. So I thought it'd be nice for all my regular stuff and more. My regular stuff fits easily in 32 gigabytes. But they're talking, and look at the price. And the price goes down if you buy 2. So, so in any case, sounded almost perfect. Till I found there's only one thing missing.
What?
The one thing missing is the LED that I really want on it to see when it's working and when it's not working. Now, and a lot of equipment will tell you anyway, and the fact is we're getting splitters, USB hubs, that show a light when they're in that. But if I go into some other gadget with one of the other ends, got a problem. So, looks really attractive. Except it turns out that there's often fine print on these things. Can everyone read the fine print?
Storage capacity, 64 gigabytes. What happened to the rest
Now,
of
my
the
question
terabytes?
is, where did it say that? I can read the 1 terabyte pretty clearly. Well, I've sent an inquiry in, and I've said, if the storage capacity is 64 gigabytes, as it says in the fine print, then why are you advertising it as 1 terabyte? Is that a lie, or is there some way it makes sense?
Oh, you're on eBay again, right?
And with eBay, I can ask the vendor, and when the vendor doesn't reply in 2 days, eBay is going to be asking him. So this will be interesting because they're not the only ones selling it at close to this price and claiming it's 1 terabyte, and in the fine print mentioning the 64 gigabytes. Now, there are 1 terabyte thumb drives. The ones that I know are 1 terabyte thumb drives are running close to $100 for 1 thumb drive. And that's interesting too. So I think we'll be seeing these real soon now, at least at the $30 mark, the way things go. But I'll be very interested in what eBay gets out of the guy if he doesn't answer me directly. Will be interesting. I've got a few more I can ask about the same thing. I don't see any sitting right here.
Yeah, there's one for
These-
10 something and 1 terabyte.
Yeah, but these are in the form of a cross. There's no swivel in them. They have all 4. And they're lying too, I think. But I didn't inquire about those. Here's one much like the one I just talked about. It's a different one, but it's
Different
equivalent.
seller.
Probably the
Same
same
picture.
manufacturer. And they have some other ones that look like it, but they have instead of a C drive, they'll have something else in it, or so on and so forth. So you have to be careful which one you're talking about. But then you have to find out if anyone got one that works. Now it turns out that the guy looks like he has a good reputation. This gets interestinger and interestinger because
Where's his rating?
uh,
There we go.
99.7% positive feedback. And let's see what people have to say about it. Do we have comments down here, or do I have to go over to him to get them? Here, by the way, is another place in the fine print. It's showing up.
Yeah, good value. Have not tried them yet. Ha! Wait until you do.
And it's guaranteed to be 64 gigabytes for 5 years. Great seller, honest, fast delivery. Haven't used it yet. Fast shipping. I think he hasn't used it either. I'm looking for someone that's used this one. And by the way, it should be all for this one, but it may not be. And I've done a little more research, but it looks more and more like everyone's awfully happy with him because they haven't used it yet. And somehow the other ones are showing up in the list. That's just wrong. So I'll have an interesting time with eBay if I don't get an answer fast. Now, it might be in 64 gigabytes, they've learned how to timeshare a terabyte of data. Do you believe that? It should be interesting. So that's that particular demo. And I guess back to my Thunderbird.
Thunderbird? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, but the next one is Dennis, and you want to
Okay.
unshare.
Dennis, I am. Oh, let me talk about one more real fast. DuckDuckGo bangs. You're going to like it. It's going to explain itself. It's going to show itself. If you're using Google search or any of the Microsoft searches, get out of the habit. Go over to DuckDuckGo or something else that doesn't share your data. And then once you're there, this is a new flavor they're offering, a little extra trick they've added in, and you can just read all about it. Now I'll get out of the way. And Dennis, you can go on with flying on a Wacom 1, which I want to see.
You need to go to.
All right. Need to go thither to get out. No?
No.
Where am I? I thought it was in Firefox.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
NatickFOSS Jitsi Meet over there.
So simple, only a child can do it. And
unshare.
It's blanked out.
All right.
Sharing your screen. Okay. I should be gone.
You are.
And you're there.
So the Wacom 1 is this device here that I have. It looks kind of like a tablet. It has a stylus that goes with it. Now, it is not a tablet. So it goes over in this particular version. Goes over and has a USB connector for the stylus, and it has an HDMI connector to connect to the computer. And basically, this is acting as a second monitor.
Are you sharing something?
I'm not sharing it yet.
Okay.
So let me share the screen itself. The screen is a 13-inch screen. So whenever I'm holding the stylus near the screen, it will go over and start showing the point that it's at on the screen. Now, this image here is an example of what I used to be doing. So if I remove these, I would go over and I would draw it out on paper first. And then after I drew it out on paper, I would create some new layers in the GIMP, and then I would go over and redraw it again digitally. And so you can see that there were some changes made when I was redrawing it. So I changed out the weapon and stuff like that. Now with this, I can use it to draw just like I'm drawing on paper. So you can just go over and create a new image. All right, let's cancel that. Make a smaller one. And we can zoom in a bit. And so basically you can end up using it just like you would if you were drawing on paper. So I can create a new layer. And now a lot of drawing books and stuff will have you do like guidelines and that sort of thing. And so it's really nice in that you can go over and do, actually, let me undo that for a second. Give myself a bigger, there. Now we can go over and we can draw things. We can. Now, the stylus is not going to help you if you can't draw. This is going to end up just being like drawing with paper. So it can help you in putting it into the computer, but it can't go over and suddenly make you a better artist, unfortunately. But you can quickly go over and rough out things like this. And then you can go over and give it a nice long tail if you want. Now, I'm not a speed drawer, so anything I draw here is going to look really bad. But this is what you might do for a rough layout initially, just to figure out where everything should be and how big you want them. And so then I can go over here, over on the right, and switch the opacity. So I can switch it down to a lower value. And that way I can go over and create a new layer. And then you could go over and draw a more fine detailed one if you want. And so you could do stuff like that. And so that you can have, and then once you've drawn all the details you want, you can just easily remove that layer that had the guidelines that you were working on. So you can see this is the first image I did using the tablet. And if we go over and turn off those layers, this was the first rough outline I did. So you can see I was just trying to get the shape of the head, the front legs, and then the back body. And then let's see. So then when I filled it in, you could see that I made some adjustments to the size of things over time. So I found that the body was a bit too big, so I moved it in a little bit. Now this stylus basically works as a mouse as well. So you can use any of the tools that you would use. So you could go over and switch to the flood fill, and you can just flood fill in areas. Well, not like that. Switch it to that. So you could flood fill in an area. Now I have played around with what the colored version of this would look like so that you can, I think you could see it a little bit easier as a bear that way, or a bear-like creature. Now this particular drawing tablet, the Wacoms were rated pretty well. There's a cheaper, like no name brand version that you can get for as little as $60. But I just didn't like the look of it. So everyone was saying that the Wacom products are pretty good. So that's what I went with. A new version of this costs like $400, I think it is.
They've been the good name in tablets for 35 years now.
Yeah. Apparently around Christmas time, you can usually get the deals on them, but obviously I didn't do that. But they have a eBay store where they sell refurbished ones for $170. And they also sell used ones for $140. I don't know what the difference is between their used and refurbished. This one I bought is the used version. I don't notice any scratches or anything on it. It seems to be working fine. So the stylus does have one button on it. Under GIMP, you can hold it down and move the image around. Really useful if you zoom in. So if you're zooming into a particular area, you can now easily just press a button and move the image around instead of having to switch to a different tool or anything. Any questions?
I have one, Dennis. Azalga. Do you find that it's difficult for you to look at your computer monitor while you are working on the tablet wherever it's located?
Well, I actually just put GIMP on the tablet and just use the tablet. I don't look at the computer monitor at all.
Oh, your tablet is the one that actually displays.
Yes.
That's why it's so expensive, I guess.
Yes, it is a 13-inch 1080p screen. So,
Dennis, I have a question. Can you, when you're drawing, are you able to put your hand on the tablet and not have it picked up as you're trying to draw where your hand is? In other words, to steady your
yes, this particular one is not a touch screen. So you can put your hand on it all day long and it won't do anything. It only registers the stylus.
Excellent.
I have a question. Can one do the equivalent job on a computer with a touch screen?
I don't know. Maybe, well, I don't think you can, because you're going to have that problem that Jill mentioned where you're going to put your hand down on the screen and then it's going to register where your hand is. I suppose if maybe you could get used to holding something like a stylus and not touching the screen. I'm not that good at art, so I don't think that would work for me.
I can picture a different adjustment on the touchscreen detection, so it only looks at a tiny point touching it.
Yeah. Now this also has pressure sensitivity. So theoretically, the tools in here, like a spray brush tool, can use that so that the harder you press down, the more it sprays. It doesn't seem like that's turned on the way I'm using it right now, so I haven't fiddled around with finding out how to do that.
What's on the tip? Is it sort of a rubbery plastic?
Yeah, plastic. I don't know.
Because I'm thinking if I designed a pencil point shaped piece of that, it would be touch sensitive as it got larger, but it would never get large enough to be close to the size of a finger touch. Interesting thought, because there are plenty of laptops now that fold out flat.
Yep. Well, I specifically wanted to go with something that was a drawing tablet. So
Yeah, I see your point, but I'm wondering if anyone's taken the other trip and found a way to
my wife
in their laptop.
My wife was telling me that there's some YouTubers that her and my son watch that would draw on like a regular tablet, so a touch screen, but they would have a special glove that they put on that would cause it so that it wouldn't register their hand, and then just the stylus would register.
If you have more on that for next month, I'd love to hear it.
I imagine you could have a little sort of a raised platform that would raise just above, and that you could draw from, put your hand, rest your wrist on that and be able to draw. But then you'd have to be able to move it around.
Yep. Now this, because of the fact that it's not a touch screen, it does work just like paper. If I go over and want to draw a straight line, I can get a ruler out, put it on the page, and draw with that.
Nice, very nice. And thank you for a very good demo of how it works. Any other questions for Dennis? Okay, let's see. Here we are. Well, I already told you you'd have a link, and the DuckDuckGo bangs is something you're going to like, but you can let them tell you.
You want to share your screen again?
I'm trying to figure that out. Yeah, I suppose I should. I'll take back the screen if I may. And
all yours.
Up here.
like this.
Mm-hmm.
And this. So simple, only a child can do it. I have a way to do it with a keyboard combination that I'm not remembering today. Okay, let's see. Thunderbird, I hear you say. So where am I going anyway? Wallpaper. I had something for that somewhere. I guess I'll go to.
You didn't want to.
Dick is muted again.
Yeah, I just shared the screen, my screen.
If Dick wants to talk to it, he needs to unmute.
Okay. All right, we can go a little bit further here since coming towards the end.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you now.
Okay.
I think what happened was I muted Dick during Dennis's presentation, and he has not unmuted himself.
Do you think you've not unmuted yourself?
Well, if I could tell you, I'd tell you.
The thing is, his screen never came up either.
Yeah, well, we can see that the central server thinks he's still muted.
Yep.
And we don't have a button to unmute him because that would be privacy concerning.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you now, but you may be coming through Jill's mic.
You are. He is.
I am at the moment.
That
Good.
works.
We'll keep it up that way for the moment. Now, I looked around in it and I found collections, and there's some truly remarkable image collections in it, some very old.
Dick, you know that they're not seeing that.
Oh, no, I thought they were. Where did I lose it to go get it?
I don't know. Go back to Jitsi Meet.
Here we go again. Says
And put
Right
on
now,
the,
Jerry is sharing his screen.
I'm seeing Jerry's screen.
I can unshare if you want.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Mine will work a lot better that way.
Okay.
And that. And
okay, you're sharing. Now you want to go to your
see this.
images, was it?
Oh, yeah, I can do it that way. So back in the public domain review, I hope you'll be there shortly. Yes, no? Why not?
That's a good question. It's still on Jerry. Up there it comes. Wow.
What was that time about?
Took a long
I don't
time.
know. Anyway, in the image collections, half of these are collections, some of them are singles,
They're not scrolling.
and they're not scrolling. I'm scrolling my screen. It seems to be locked for you.
Your screen is dark.
Oh, I've got him on my screen, or what he's demoing, which is the web page for the public domain review, which is publicdomainreview.org/collections/images.
Well, I propose pretend you're seeing it. You'll have something you can click on later. And
Okay, we're back.
down at the bottom, it's showing 19 of those screenfuls of choices. And I believe there's more in other categories that also have images. And that's not including film, audio, etc. This is a very rich treasure trove of stuff. So I'll be milking it for a few of my desktop images. They're all shareable, by the way. And that's it for that, since I can't show you more of it. Let's see.
Computer security problems.
I'm going to skip a bunch of these. Just mention them. Under computer security, privacy, and freedom, images can contain malicious code and malware. There's some interesting article and links on that subject.
Would that be in the metadata?
They have several ways of doing it, including at the time of the article, one new one that sounded interesting.
Uh-huh.
I won't go and look at it now. And let's see. And this one, I think this is a major one. Tech giants are putting democracy in peril the world over. And I think it's worth watching and doing something with next month. I want to flag it for that. And that feeds right into the Identity Theft Awareness Week that we started with. And I remind you, tonight and tomorrow are the end of it if you want to do it live. And some of them you can only do live. Most of them you can do later.
Why don't you stop sharing so Jerry can share his?
Oh,
Stop
Good.
sharing over here. Go back to
Okay.
Jitsi Meet.
I'm going to get out of the way. And who? Sherry or Dennis is next? Which?
Jerry, go to Jitsi Meet and turn off sharing and let Jerry bring up his.
My screen is no longer sharing.
And Jerry's got his up. You were down here.
Oh, good.
You can be talking, Dick.
But I shouldn't, should I?
Yeah.
Isn't Sherry about to start?
No. He's just putting up the menu here.
Oh, misunderstanding here. Okay. So let's see. Science on State Street. We are now officially invited to participate. It will be indoors. We will have the necessary facilities, including internet connection, hopefully better than this. And
Everybody's required to be vaccinated and have a mask, and wear a mask.
Yep. COVID is going to be measured on the way in, which is good news in my book. And let's see. I think I will. I think we'll move on directly to. Oh, and I'll mention for the demos. It's going to be on Earth Day. They're featuring Earth Day environmental type items. That doesn't mean your demo has to be an environmental demo, but if you can pick an environmental image or an environmental subject, environmental data, it'll be just that much more in theme. Basically, we're telling people how to get powerful, free software.
Dennis, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you ready to do the ladybug demo?
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. Jerry, make way for Dennis on the screen.
All right. So, Ladybug is a arcade game that I have never played. But someone went over and made this version using the Love game engine. It's a game engine that you can go over and write Lua programs in. And they went over and tried to recreate the Ladybug arcade game. So for every time there's a successful arcade game in the past, the other companies would try to make knockoffs that they generally had some innovations, but they were really trying to get people who were playing the other game. So in this case, once we started up, you could see that it's a knockoff of Pac-Man sort of thing.
We're still there, Dennis.
What?
We are still seeing fair.
You're not seeing the game at the moment?
No.
Correct.
Yeah.
You may be sharing your GIMP screen rather than your game screen.
All right. Let me try sharing the full screen and see if that makes a difference.
I'll just continue that to next month.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
You're sharing the wrong display. You're sharing the Wacom.
I shouldn't be. I
Well, that's what we're getting.
disconnected the Wacom, so you shouldn't.
Yeah.
All right. Really? All right, hold on. Can you still hear me? Did I disconnect?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
I see it now.
Oh yeah. Yep. There it is. Looks like a Pac-Man knockoff.
Yeah, I'm not getting it, but I think that's just a network.
Is everybody else not hearing Dennis?
Correct.
I'm not hearing Dennis.
Because he is muted.
Not hearing Dennis. We were seeing the game, however.
Yeah, videos.
My video keeps turning off, as does my microphone without my.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Sound.
So this particular game's kind of like Pac-Man. However, there are a lot of innovations in this one. It does not have any sort of ability to eat the ghosts or the enemies in this case, but there are these little skulls on the screen some places, and so you can go over and use them to kill enemies. You also have the ability to push these walls. So certain walls can be pushed and flipped around. So it allows you to basically block off certain areas to prevent the enemies from getting to you, although there's no way to make something completely safe. So in addition to that, there are a lot of other things in here. So there are various letters scattered throughout the maze and these circles with hearts in them. Now, there's a lot of complexity to using them in the game. So you could see that they're changing colors. And at the top, there are these things saying special, extra, and some.
Is on.
Dennis got muted again.
Why does it keep muting?
Are you tapping the space bar?
No.
I'm not seeing your screen share,
I
only
don't see.
your own
Yeah.
screen.
Same here.
Now I'm seeing the ladybug screen.
Yeah. So basically, the game has a lot of additional things going on in here. So there are letters to pick up, and you can match up the word special or the word extra with them. But you have to pick them up when they're the same color as the word at the top. So this T I can only get if it's yellow. It will be added to the top. The same with these circles with a heart in it. You want to get them when they're blue so that they add to the multiplier. So the game has a lot of complexity to it, despite looking like it's a simple sort of Pac-Man type clone. Now, I will say that the controls for the game are not great. You often end up in a situation where you're like between where you want to be, or you're slightly off. And so when you try to go down a corridor, you just end up bumping into a wall. And that tends to get you killed. I asked the person who made this particular version of it, and he said that the original version of the game also had that same sort of bad controls, and that it's just one of those things of you have to get used to it in order to be able to get good at the game. I did watch a video of someone else playing the actual arcade, and either it's easier on the arcade or I'm just bad at the game, because that person didn't get stuck as often as I have. So now this is the game that I got when I said that I had a few days before actually demoing it. So of course I went over and modified it. So now if you hit 2, you get a second character, so you can have 2 people playing it at the same time. Now this does make the game easier because now you have the same number of enemies as before, but you now have them divided between 2 different people. Now
What's your game control?
the game controls for this right now are hard-coded for the arrow keys for player 1 and the WASD for player 2.
Thank you.
Eventually, I plan on making that configurable, but right now I just hard-coded it. Right now, there is only 1 set of lives, and there is only 1 score. So both of those are things that I'd like to fix at some point. But it was something I could do up in just 2 days. So, and of course, the reason why I've been modifying it to add in a second player is, of course, because I have that arcade machine. So I'd like to have it to have 2 players simultaneous, because you can never have too many games on that.
Never.
Any questions?
Yeah. Very nice.
Question. I have 2 links for this talk. Take a look at them and change them as appropriate.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. I think I am going to leave the finger cursor theme for next month. It will keep, it's pretty neat. So we have a few things to carry forward. And again, if any of you want to pick up on some of those suggestions, I'd love to have you present on 1 or 2 of those topics that we just introduced today. I think it's about time to stop. Are there any questions?
None from here.
I think we covered it all. It was thick as mud, but it covered the ground. Okay. See you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, all.